expecting, we have already hit 100. I think people, unfortunately, who are logged in late are not able to join. I think it also tells you why there are a lot of people who have a lot of questions around it and a lot of curiosity. And so since we have an eminent panel who have got the experience working with CSR. Before I get into that, I think there are two questions that came up when you were addressing Divya. One was around the fact, asking whether incubators not funded by government, are they also eligible for funds? Not for profit incubators.
Right. So not for profit incubators, still they have to be recognized by one government body or another.
Okay.
So it will be great if you don't want funding, you can get a recognition. Even DST provides recognition to you as a TBI. So you don't necessarily need their funds, but you can always get a recognition.
Okay. So that answers the question on that. And the second one is around, they wanted the presentation PPT, the one that you presented.
Sure. Happy to share it.
So these two. So right now, let me go straight to the panel. And I already introduced briefly all the members who are part of the discussion. Now, since Divya has already set the entire aspect around how incubators can leverage and benefit from corporate partnerships, let me ask each of the members to start with practically what have they done? What are some of the CSR partnerships that they have forged, and if there is anything that they can say in terms of how it has worked well for both the incubator and for the corporate with whom they have done this partnership. So I would like each one of you to just share your maybe one or two case studies around this, and then also I would request all the participants who are part of this panel today, please, if you have a question, put it in the chat box and kindly unmute yourself, because I think sometimes you press the space bar and you go on mute, and then we'll hear all your conversations. Okay, so let me start with Magic, Mr. Ashish Gade. And Ashish, I would like to understand, because since you are not just an accelerator, but you are also representing kind of a chamber of commerce. So you're working closely with industry. So in a way, you have the industries who need to, under Section 135, are part of the CSR, come under the CSR ambit, and then you also are running an accelerator and an incubator. So what is it that you have done in the past, and anything that you can share from that?
Yeah, thank you, Prasad, and thank you, Divya. Basically, as mentioned by Prasad, Magic, that is Marathwada Accelerator for Growth and Incubation Council, is a business incubator and SME accelerator promoted by the members of Chamber of Marathwada Industries and Agriculture, CMI, located at Aurangabad. So this particular incubator and accelerator is slightly different. It's not hosted in any of the academic institutions and not directly connected with any of the academic institutions. But we have MOUs with many academic institutions. While we are well connected with industries, the basic thing for attracting CSR is the Section 8 company needs to be fully compliant. That is the first and foremost important thing. The next thing is these incubator needs to be very active, like supporting startups. The CSR partners take into consideration the activities and other programs that are being managed by incubators and the way the incubator is supporting to the startups. So even though our incubator is just 3 years old in terms of Section 8 company, we are active since 2015, even without a Section 8 company. So we have enough credibility in place in terms of our programs, in terms of our actions and support to startups. So the track record is important for the corporates, and they go by the performance the incubator is demonstrating. So
Ashish, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Ashish, sorry to interrupt. I want, since you mentioned that since 3 years you're now like the incubator and the accelerator is registered. What would help everyone is that if you look at the different kind of engagement models that Divya mentioned that incubators have with corporates. In these 3 years, is there anything that you have worked that you can share? You may not have to name the company, but just to give that, with this company, this is what worked, this is what your approach, this is what you did.
Yeah, whatever Divya mentioned about those 3 things, there are 2 companies in Aurangabad who have supported our incubator and the chamber in terms of creating infrastructure for the incubator. The building expansion project was funded. I will name the companies also since they have contributed. One is Bajaj Auto Limited and the other one is Garware Polyesters Limited. So these are local companies who saw our initiatives, activities, and proactively supported for building expansion. Then, since we have ATG 12A and completed 3 years, all balance sheets audited, we got opportunity to connect with other corporates outside of Aurangabad for executing specific projects. Last year, we conducted India's first virtual exhibition for startup ecosystem in collaboration with Tata Technologies Limited and CII. It was a 3-month-long virtual exhibition for startup ecosystem, considering the COVID impact, as physical meetings and physical exhibitions were not possible. So that was one initiative. And recently, we also got selected in HDFC Parivartan program, wherein HDFC Bank has a Smart-Up program for supporting startups, and they support incubators, and in turn, the incubators are expected to support startups.
So Ashish, if I take these specific examples, so if I look at Bajaj and Garware, they helped you, let's say, with their CSR funds provided to build the infrastructure. Then you said the event that you did, the first virtual event, where Tata Technologies, did Tata Technologies provide that from their incubation, or was it part of their some other program? CSR or?
Yeah. All these are CSR partnerships. Basically, for incubators, you need to have a starting point. And our first CSR grant was given by Umasans Autocompo in Aurangabad, because unless you have a proven track record, even for CSR, the other companies, then they just start building on the activities which we have done in the past. As I mentioned, you need to have a track record where you have CSR support or corporate engagements, and that's how these companies trust you.
Okay. Thanks, Ashish. Thank you so much.
Yeah, one last line. The incubators need to be absolutely transparent. Their balance sheets need to be in public domain. Only then corporates trust.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm making notes here. Compliance, credibility is very important. I think those are 2 words that I am taking from what Ashish just shared. Now I would like to invite Dr. Manisha. I think she has, she's got many years of experience in the incubation space, and she is also, if I am not mistaken, always there leading collaborations and very active. So Manisha, Dr. Manisha, I would like you to share with everyone over here some of the, if you look back, and some of the partnerships that you have forged, using the corporate CSR route, right? If you would share, is there something that we can learn and something that you would look back and say, okay, this is what worked and this is what does not work?
Okay. So see, I have engaged with different incubators in different phase of my life. Starting from here from KTVI to Indigram Labs, and then now it is the Center for Innovation Incubation of the University. So I'd like to give one small two examples. One is the during my Indigram Labs time. One is with the Jubilant Foundation. We had a discussion with them means 1 year before. Then after discussion, they are gradually I have interacted with that CSR head, and after 1 year, after all discussion, they ready for the grand challenge program for the biopesticide biofertilizer because that is their interest point. Another interesting thing that is, of course, that is not a corporate. You can say this is the international foundation. That is Ford Foundation. Very interesting story. I want to hear. I like to mention. The CS that foundation head, India head. We both are in a committee that is to for a jury. Actually, Social Alpha they have invited us. So we are in the same table, and we had a good discussion. And in that discussion, he told me that we are very much interested with women entrepreneurs. So after discussion, I have sent them one introduction mail. Then we invited them in our one acceleration program. Then again, we invited them one other demo day that is for the women entrepreneurs. Then after that, I have sent another mail that we want to collaborate with you. Then he replied me, okay, at what points, give me some points of where you can collaborate. So I had a discussion internally, then we have made several points. The last point just I remembered because he told me that I want to work for the women entrepreneurs. If you want to work something about women entrepreneur, I have interest. So I just remembered that point, and just I mentioned Women Startup Center. Just I have mentioned, and immediately the same day he replied that we are very much interested for this. Make a proposal. So this is the two story I can share you. And from my experience, I have just jot down some points that all incubators should make it a point that networking and engagement with the corporate or any foundation is the first. You must invite them before asking them any fund. You must invite them to an incubation center. You must invite them to different programs, different workshops and demo day, so that confidence level will grow. Definitely, that what Ashish ji told that that 12J, 80G and all the balance, that is also required. And in addition to that, what exactly you are working, that showcase that will give the confidence level for the corporates. Second is what is the priority area of that particular corporate, whether it is a woman or it is nutrition or environment, healthcare, was or skill development. What is the interest area? So that we need to know. So before approaching to any corporate, we need to do a proper research work. So that of the organization. Then and we should not send a mass mail to any corporates. Means it should not look like it's a mass mail. Its mail should be very much customized. And one important point is what impact it will give, because end of the day they will showcase that okay, this is the CSR fund we have given to this incubator and this is the impact. And definitely the startups who are incubated in that incubator, if they are matching with the what is the corporates are working, if that is the matching is there, then definitely corporates will take interest. So, and if possible, that is one thing. It is CSR fund. It is not a one-day affair. It is a continuous affair. So, if possible, one exclusive staff for the CSR work, if someone has assigned in an incubator, because he or she should be the key point to interact with on regular basis. Not only that, we are just asking from the funds in any update from our incubator. We must inform them. We must regular interact with them. That will give the confidence to the corporates and approach to the local industry, local corporates first, because they have them much interest. And sometimes we can do the very specific program, acceleration program. We can, because that type of, if that is the interest, means sometimes if the corporate has the interest with women, then women specific acceleration program, or they have the healthcare or waste to management, what are the sectors they have interest, we can make the proposal according to it. So so this is the main thing is the build up specific program, specific proposal for the CSR fund. And main thing is the networking. That is the main key point, what I say. Because all these things which are personal means what is the personal touch you have? If you are, how you are interacting with those people. That is the main key point, I can say.
Thanks, Dr. Manisha. Indeed, I think what you hit the nail on the head by saying that our relationship with corporates cannot be just for knocking on their door for CSR fund. I think it starts with networking, collaborating, inviting them, and so great. Now I'll jump straight to Prasad Shetty, because I know Prasad, you're working with Sign and I also know that you have helped some CSR activities where startups are able to get those funds from CSR through Sign. That would be great if you could share some of those examples as well, where how you're able to tap into these partnerships for startups, not just for the incubator, but for startups.
Hi, thank you, Prasad. Hi everyone, my name is Prasad Shetty. I am from Sign IIT Bombay. Sign IIT Bombay is a sector agnostic technology business incubator. We started a CSR activity way back in 2015, where we have received our first CSR fund from one of the corporate. As of now, we have received almost 20 odd CSR funds from corporate. Most of the fund, how we have utilized is that around 69 to 70% funds we have deployed in startups, and around 25% fund we have deployed in creating incubators infrastructure. When we say incubator infrastructure, why we focus more on the incubation infrastructure is that so that we can support more and more startups by startups can gain out of our own infrastructure and they can benefit out of that. And for doing all this activity, we do take some kind of a small percentage of management fee under this CSR, which is allowed. Divya can give more, throw more lights on that. So that you can also be creating a sustainable model around the CSR programs. When we started, what we understood is that creating a proper model and putting it in the website will create more visibility. At the same time, corporates will also understand how the incubator works around with the CSR fund and how they are going to help these startups. So what we have done is that everybody can visit Sign website and see under the resource we have put the CSR guidelines. So what we have done is that we have created 5 buckets. If corporate give money, how we are going to use the fund. So I will start with how we have started. Like we first we have done whatever corporate fund we have received. Then we have put it in the fellowship, internship grant, or EIR kind of a program. Many people know about EIR program, a resident entrepreneur and resident, where you give a stipend to the entrepreneurs or the innovators who can develop prototypes, and accordingly he can start his own venture. That kind of a fund we can support to innovators when corporates give fund. Also,
Prasad, just a quick on that EIR. So there is EIR funding available from government, but you're saying that if you don't have to wait for the government DST EIR, you can tap into corporates to fund a EIR program, correct?
Correct. So what happens is that if you really see, government comes with a call for application, that takes a lot of time and there is a limitation. So there are certain funds which has a specific need and specific, if the companies are in specific domain, then only you can support. But here, where corporates give this fund, we have a free hand where we can select startups and we can fund them. So that is one model which incubators can adopt. Second is funding support to startups for prototype. Like I will name it Nidhi Prayas. What we have done is that we have mentioned these are the startups who are in the prototype stage and they require these kind of a fund. So corporates look into these startups, then accordingly they give us the fund and we deploy it in startups. This is one way of doing.
Same way, Prasad, even for Nidhi Prayas, exactly the same thing.
Yes,
so
yes.
Nidhi Prayas is a fund where you call for application and you're giving prototyping grant to the startups.
Yes.
The corporates are also invited and they also can pool into funding the prototyping?
Yeah, both way. But this can be an independent call, or it can be a different call, or it can be a joint call which you are opening for Nidhi Prayas. It depends, right? If you get a application of 200 plus and you are able to support in Nidhi Prayas only 10 or 12. But if you have a good cases where you want to support more, then the CSR will come in place, and we can deploy those funds in these startups or innovators or entrepreneurs. Then we also have created a bucket for program events like accelerator boot camps, lecture series, workshops, training programs for our entrepreneurs and innovators. Here you can leverage these corporates in both way. One is by taking a fund for managing these events, and plus calling their expert who can guide our startups. It's not only one-way communication where you can only take the money, and you should think more on leveraging their expertise. Let's say I will give an example. If some corporate is working on clean tech, and if you have startups in clean tech, so that will benefit more than money. It's not only about money, right? So that is another way you can get engaged with these corporates.
Got it.
Then third thing is capacity building of your own incubator infrastructure. One is lab workspace for your office, maybe your incubatees are sitting there, and lab equipments which can be used by your startups. Like I will give you an example of healthcare. Let's say healthcare companies want expensive equipment which they will not be able to afford it unless and until some corporates going to sponsor them or fund them, which you can put it in the incubator facility. One company can use it definitely, and in future companies, if somebody wants to use it, they can also come and use that thing. So that way you can create another model around. And
what is the process and how long does it take? Let's take this example where you have a startup in an incubator who needs access to equipment which are beyond their means, and so the incubator sign wants to develop that infrastructure, and it approaches the corporate, makes the proposal, corporates approve it, provide the funding. So how long does that process take?
It's a continuous process, Prasad, I will say. It's not only, it's not like if company is coming to you and they are asking for some equipment and you will not be able to immediately provide that thing. But at the same time, if you have certain fund mapped for some kind of equipment, you can prioritize which equipment should come first, which equipment should come later. And accordingly, you can map those activities.
Got it.
That way, sign as functioning. And fifth bucket, which I am talking about, broad activities, whichever activity promotes innovation and entrepreneurship. So we have created this 5 bucket list, which we have listed in the website. Whoever comes for, whichever corporates come forward and give the CSR to sign. So it has been clearly written down in the website itself, so that they can understand how we are going to perform with their money. That is one. And second thing, what kind of a benefits we are going to give it to those CSR contributors. One is we are going to do a social media, what kind of a fund they have provided to us. And on top of that, we also give them the reporting on time, so that they will be whatever compliance they have to follow for the CSR, that will be done on time. Okay. Those activities we do on time. And at the same time, like Dr. Manisha, Dr. Divya mentioned, it's a continuous process. You have to have a touch point with the corporates. Let's say when I talk about these 20 odd corporates, some are one-time activity which happened, but more than 50% of these corporates, we are having a repetitive CSR fund coming to sign. The reason we are continuously in touch with them, we are creating a visibility for them. We tell them that these kind of corporates have funded us, and these startups have been supported, and what kind of an impact they have created. So this gives a lot of encouragement to corporates to fund more and more to incubators. And downside is that we also face a lot of challenges, which I will take it later when we will talk about the challenges.
So thanks, Prasad. Thanks for sharing. I think, of course, side is an example of an incubator, which is a matured incubator. It's been existent for more than a decade. And the relationships that they have forged with the corporates is continuous. Therefore, corporates can choose between the 5 buckets. And I'm sure, and I hope and pray that many of the other incubators who are listening in also reach that maturity and that that kind of strong relationship with corporate for their CSR partnership. Now, I would like to turn to Vikram. Vikraman from IKP. I think now because you work in technologies which are probably way ahead of its time, and so when you are talking about specifically around innovation and disruptive technologies, how do you see that in the context of the conversations with corporates when it comes to CSR funding? What are some of the things that you have experienced and some of the things that you want to share with other incubators?
Okay. First, thanks so much for having me on this session. At IKP, we have worked on one accelerator program, which was a social impact accelerator program funded by CSR. 4 corporates came together to support this program. This was Citrix, which is the servers company. There was Harman Kardon, which is both speakers and audio and connected devices, Harman Kardon. We had Ericsson Global, and we had Zenov Management Consulting. So these were 4 partners who came together. And along with that, we also had GIZ that came together, and they put in the funds together to run this one particular accelerator program. We had a focus area of agriculture, education, healthcare, sanitation, and clean tech. So as you can see, these were all social impact sectors. We had 8 startups under the program. One of the startups that most of you may have heard of is Niramai Health, right? So they went on to raise $7 million, post the accelerator, etc., etc. So the other team that you may have heard of is SASCAN, which has just now raised pre-Series A round or Series A round for oral cancer detection.
So Vikram, just sorry to interrupt you. I think what you said is interesting. I think Dr. Divya had prodded on this point. Mm-hmm. While agriculture, health, all these are part of the SDGs, the fact that incubators are bringing in technologies in these sectors from social media, because none of these startups are Section 8 companies, they are for-profit startups, right? So when you brought these corporates together for this particular accelerator program, what is that kind of invitation? What is it that call that attracted them? Was it a social cause, or is it the cause of the technology for the social cause?
So in our case, it was the social cause. It was, though we have other companies that are working on disruptive technologies, we have not yet run a CSR program which are working on disruptive technologies. So only for the social impact sectors we have so far run. So yes. Okay. That's the fact. So I shouldn't say that we raised for something else. This is the fact. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's good to know. And you're right, because somehow I think I'll also get Dr. Divya in here. When corporates are looking at CSR, for them it's always those social causes, which is like health, underprivileged children, education, agriculture. Those things comes into play. And so I think, Vikram mentioned very, very correctly how those startups actually were working in the social, let's say, field, but it's basically they are tech companies, right? They are technology startups in a way, right? So
yeah, if I may add, it is not that Niramai was not disruptive at that time. They were disruptive, which is why they went on to do a massive fundraise, and they are a great success story in the startup ecosystem. It's just that the sector was healthcare, and they were a for-profit company, and they had cutting-edge technology. But when we pitched the program, it was not to say that, hey, CSR for disruptive technology. It was CSR for great companies working in the space of social impact. And that was across agri, ed tech.
Very good, very good. And that's absolutely, I think, spot on. I think a lot of the incubators listening in should definitely take cue from this, because we have to, I think, like what Dr. Manisha mentioned, you need to, for every corporate, you need to present yourself to what the corporates, it has to match with what the corporate's agenda is as well, right? So, okay. Anything else? Any other example, Vikraman, you would like to share?
Sorry, no. We have run one program so far. We are in the process of talking to a few others to make this happen.
Okay.
But that's the one example where we have run.
Thanks. Okay, now I would turn to keep Dr. Divya for the last with a few questions that come, which I think she can answer. Dr. Bala, I think you have been now you're in an academic institution and running heading this TBI. So what has been your experience? Because I know that the institution also has got corporate engagements. As an institute, there are certain collaborations you make. Now, how does that work with the TBI? And are there any examples where you are able to leverage the institutional corporate connects for the incubator?
Yeah, thanks, Prasad. See, our personal experience, it has been very, very tough to convince corporates. So one prima facie, sometimes they are also comfortable with some brand association. I don't want to get into the details, but sometimes when we look into the specifics, we have two examples. One, we ran an accelerator program. It's spread over about 6 months, and so it was about for capacity building for about 15 prospective startups, and from that we had a downstream for about 6-7. This is from one of the major consumer brands, so who saw value in our capacity building initiatives and partnered, and but it was through a competitive proposal and bidding. It took it's a long tail. It takes at least about 3 to 6 months of spade work and continuous efforts to get a project like this. The second one, again, the company is in the automotive sector with a very clear focus on certain technologies that would be of interest to them. So which we pre-screened and taken into consideration. And this has been, again, took almost about 3 to 4 months of time, and by now from 5 or 6 companies which we showcased, they picked one, and hopefully in the coming months it will increase. So these two are the examples. The third one, what started as a CSR exercise, as a more or less become a strategic alignment with the company's future requirement, and so that has taken a different tangential shift, and so they dropped the CSR talk, but they're directly discussing with the company for a strategic collaboration, including some investments and JV kind of proposition. So there are different kinds of experiences. Patience is the key. No quick results. The prior relations are very, very important. While the institution's brand helps to an extent, the association with the institution for the brands or for a different purpose, mainly for placements and so other kind of collaboration. So when it comes to CSR, it's giving money, their hard-earned cash, giving away to incubators or startups. So a lot of thought process goes in. And as Divya also used to say in different forums, so this is a new culture, right? Earlier it was okay to go to schools, donate furniture, computers, which give immediate photo opportunities. Unlike those options, this is again a lot of leeway. And also another aspect which I would like to point out, some of the corporate finance officials who are in the position to take the final decision, they need to be sensitized, because for them, they are finding it difficult to differentiate between incubator who's a direct recipient of a CSR grant vis-a-vis the partner for CSR. There is some misunderstanding which we'll have to repeatedly show the circulars of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and defend we are eligible recipients. So these are some quick perspectives. So I'll be happy if you have any specific follow-up questions to take it.
There is some disturbance from, okay, it's gone.
Is that okay now?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Thanks, well, I think we all, as incubator community, we need to, talk about not just all the good things, but also the bad and the ugly things, right? And I understand what you say, Bala, that the institutional brands sometimes are able to get the corporates drawn to them. The alumni network is able to get the corporates to the institutions and for the CSR. So I now want Dr. Divya to step in. Now you have heard all the experiences of the different leaders from the incubation centers, and if you look at you had a very beautifully articulated what are the different engagement models that you think corporates would would like to engage with the incubator. But incubators have the desire to do it, but corporates, are they ready for this? I think like what Bala mentioned, the CFOs and the gatekeepers of this decision of CSR are not always understanding it. So what are some of the things that you think incubators should do to overcome this big challenge?
So, entrepreneurs done an easy exercise. So that also holds good for our.
Divya, again, your voice was low.
Am I?
Go back. Your voice is still low.
Okay. So I was saying, when have entrepreneurs done an easy job? So that also holds good for incubators. Am I audible?
Now you are just
right. So I was saying, when have entrepreneurs done an easy job?
I think suddenly you've gone. Can you hear me?
Sorry to interrupt, madam. If you can try to switch off your camera and talk, might be connectivity issue would be there.
Yes, and that's one of the problems, and I often wonder if there is a connectivity issue in Noida and how would be in Northeast. But thank you so much for mentioning that. Is it better?
Yes, we can try.
Great, thank you so much. So now what I was saying was that when have entrepreneurs done an easy job? So I would actually second by what Dr. Bala mentioned, that and I often hear this, that it's easy for the IITs and the IIMs to get CSR money. But then, today, if you see the panel, we have the non-IITs and the non-IIMs also raising money. So, and that's why, this forum has been so carefully crafted, with incubators who come from, I won't say tier 2, tier 3 cities, but also come from, A+ or, A grade institutions also. So, one thing is for sure that incubators have been set up by organizations which, look at innovation in a futuristic manner. So I think with that, if we are just maybe 700 to 900 odd incubators in the country, that also makes us all the more special. So, irrespective of whether we are in an IIT or we are in an IIM, I think we are already the privileged lot. So, what is more differentiating we have to create is actually differentiate ourselves from the non-profits, so-called non-profits or NGOs. This is civil society organizations, so many of whom, as I said, there are 30 lakh registered, non-government organizations, which are non-profit in nature. So, what is it that we can do more smart? What is it that we can do a little more differently? And I could actually, listen to everybody saying about the engagement models. So, that engagement model is so true everywhere. If we don't engage with our, host institution, we'll have a problem. If we don't engage with our startups, we have another level of problem. If we don't engage with, our staff members, we do have a problem. So it's just another stakeholder management exercise, Prasad. So that's something I would like to say. And very clearly, I've also highlighted some of those points, where they can actually create, value for themselves. And yes, engage with corporate, bring them over, let them at least come and see what wonderful work you and your startups are doing. And then, say, hey, would you like to look at us? So, that's always the beginning of any simple, engagement model. So that's what
Yeah.
I would mention.
So I think what you're suggesting is definitely true, and it was highlighted with what Dr. Manisha also mentioned. If the intent of collaboration is only to seek CSR grant, then maybe that is not the right approach, because the word engagement and collaboration should come first. Grant and funding is a subsequent or a later. Okay, that comes later. I think that comes across. I think that's probably all the lessons for the incubators, because immediately right now when this is available, we go out there with a CSR proposal and reaching out for funding our programs. I think that may not be the right approach. And like also what Mr. Ashish mentioned, and also Dr. Manisha mentioned, and Dr. Bala also mentioned, that patience is required because you need to forge those relationships. You can't expect to meet someone and then get engaged and married within 2 months, right? It takes a lot of time for the relationship to develop. So thanks for that. I think Ramji, I would like to invite Dr. Ramji. I think he also has a lot of experience, and I've seen that you've written in the chat box. But I would love to hear it from you. I think everybody would love to hear what you've shared. Please.
Thanks, Prasad. It's quickly to share my experience. That's where I put some comments there. CSMB, it's a kind of budding incubator. Exactly, we are in the 5th year. Our CSR experience, I'd like to share here. Life science and healthcare. Maybe some of the healthcare incubators and other organizations might have got clear CSR pipeline and channels. But here, what happened? The point I want to stress is that we'd like to consult or maybe send so many emails or communication to those corporates who may be actually investing through CSR, but that doesn't work, as Divya is just mentioning, not about the grants or just for the funding and all. One important point, at the time we got regulations that incubators can actually get CSR, whatever. It's a kind of big news for everybody, but still the ministries or the host organization and their umbrella agents like CSR, they actually play a key role for most of the incubators. They only can actually root out and direct those kind of corporates, because they have direct contact with those corporates who can actually invest. So this actually worked for CCMB. Then because of the COVID times, because initially from 19 we were trying to approach such kind of funding, but in 2021 early stage, we got this CSR fund from Security Printing and Minting Corporation of India, Mint Agency, the money minting agency, first PSU. They actually invested for the first time in healthcare for 2.3 crores. Half of it for the Prasad from Sain mentioned, half of it for the investment into startups. So we can actually able to invest in 8 to 10 companies. Already invested 5 companies. So that is one way. Then second CSR that we got recently, it's not yet get the final order, but yes, it is sanctioned by RECL, Rural Electrification Corporation Limited, India, where IKP, AIC, CCMB, we actually are trying to set up a center for wildlife conservation in Kashmir University. It is called CORD. So where our contributory efforts are recognized by RECL, and they are closely, about 2 crores they are actually investing through CSR mode, where we can actually inculcate our skill development and also entrepreneurship promotion activities in Kashmir, Jammu Kashmir area. So this is a kind of example where this is coming through the host organization and their connects. The third one, we got small fund of 15 lakhs from a company, IT company called Blaze, because they would like to help our scientists who can actually use NGS data for analytics part. So the synergies are very much important. How you can actually create impact at the small level or bigger level. I think these are the 3 points I'd like to add, Prasad.
Thanks, Gandhi. I think what I'll do is, there's a lot to cover, but I would love to, open it for Q&A, and then some of the questions that were already asked, I will first try to answer them, while others I request you to please put it in the chat box, and I'll try to get, if it is specific to a panelist, you can ask them. Otherwise, I'll just keep it open for any of the panelists to answer. So one of the questions that came up, probably Divya, you can answer, is that is ATG certificate mandatory? That was one of the question asked. ATG certificate, is that mandatory?
Right. So, as I said, there are 3 ways.
We can't hear you, Dr. Divya.
Right. So again, putting my video off. Let's see.
We can't hear you still.
Okay. Is this any better? I don't know what's happening today. So. Any better?
Yeah, I think you can probably be closer to the mic. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So what I was saying, Prasad, was that as I mentioned, there are 3 ways of engaging. For incubators to engage in CSR. So if we are directly looked as a beneficiary, we do not require ATG or 12A. But if it's a big corporate, like, I was just today morning also having a discussion regarding HDFC CSR with one of our, friends. And she said, they are, because they are big organizations, they are not going to dilute their rules for an incubator. So, you will need a 12A and ATG. So that's how it is. While there are other organizations who overlook, if they know that you're doing a good job, they are ready to overlook and give you money directly as a beneficiary as well. So, I would say it depends on the CSR committee, how big or small is the organization.
Got it. Thanks, Dr. Divya. I think there was one more of a question, but I guess that is an obvious thing, saying that a lot of the big corporates have their own foundations and are reluctant to engage in incubators or NGOs for CSR as implementation partners. And they're asking how do you tackle? I don't think there is any way to tackle this. Those who are doing this, diverting their CSR funds to their own foundation, there is also some kind of a protection there, right, Dr. Divya, that they cannot use it for benefiting their own employees and their own brands. Am I right?
Yeah, so they cannot use money in their regular course of business for anything.
Your voice is now getting the sound is now getting worse actually.
Oh.
Here at all. Hello.
Yes, Prasad.
Hello. Okay, while Divya is trying to connect back to us, I think the question is indeed if there are corporates who have their clear CSR policy of diverting the funds to their foundations, there's nothing much we can do regarding that. That would be my quick answer to that. Are there any more questions? Power fluctuations? Oh, okay. Dr. Divya is facing power fluctuation, therefore they can spend the money through their corporate foundations, but they cannot spend on business motives. Okay, so the rule is very clear there that it cannot be to achieve any of their business objectives. So employee well-being is also kind of a business objective. So those foundations, if they are working for the employee well-being, then it will not be allowed. But if they are working on something else, it will be allowed. Any other questions you have before I spend? Also, what I would like to do now quickly ask all the also we could partner with the foundation. Yes, you can. So Dr. Divya, was the question, just a follow-up question on that can the incubators partner with the foundation?
Yes.
Yes, the answer is yes. One more question that has come. What could be the extent to which an incubator can bank upon CSR funds for sustainability of the center? Beyond implementation of CSR, how much percentage of fund can be routed for self-sustainability? So what percentage of the CSR fund can be used as management fee for the incubator if you are using it as an implementation agency?
Generally, it is 5 to 10% if it is linked to funding of startups.
5 to 10%. There, the answer is there, 5 to 10%. So yeah, CSR funds, that 5 to 10% can be part of your sustainability model, but not the entire CSR fund per se. You can't rely on this.
You can ask 10%. That's good. We actually asked 10% straight.
Prasad,
yes. Prasad.
Yeah, Prasad, but what we have observed is that, let's say if you are funding it to funding this fund to startups, then you can ask for some kind of a management fee. But if you're building on your infrastructure, then I don't see any kind of a management fund coming from corporates.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because you're not the beneficiary. Yeah. That's why if you're the implementation agency, then you can ask for that 10% management fee. But if you're the beneficiary and beneficiary like building infrastructure, then you cannot ask.
Correct.
Great. Can you? Okay. So what I would like to do as closing statements from all of you before I hand over to Dr. Bala for the vote of thanks. I would like all of you to, I'll start with the same sequence as we had started with Mr. Ashish Gade first. What is your message for the new incubators? Because see, many of the incubators, I'm not saying new in terms of age, but new to this CSR partnerships. What is your message? Because if I look at many things that has been spoken about, is be absolutely compliant, build your credibility, start your relationship, right? But when you look back at this, what is that one thing that they can start from on Monday morning as a step one? If they have not forged any CSR partnership, what should be the strategy? One thing that you're asking them to do. I'll start with you.
They should have a pitch deck. The way we ask for startups to have a pitch deck, incubators also need to have a pitch deck which they can present to corporates. Very
good suggestion. Do you have your own pitch deck? That is a question all incubators should ask themselves. Thank you, Mr. Ashish, for that. Okay, over to you, Dr. Manisha. What is that one strategy that you would say that incubators should adopt?
Yeah, make you more visibility, like startup, how they are doing. Just like that, new incubators, they should focus on that itself. Make more, whatever the work you are doing, that is, and more engagement with the corporates.
So you have to bring yourself out there and showcase yourself as much as possible. Okay, thank you, Dr. Manisha. And now, Mr. Vikraman.
I think most of the ideas are covered. I think when you present to the corporates, you may want to have a strong financial plan as to how you're going to spend their money, how the transparency is going to be maintained, what are the governance and compliances within your organization, just so that they don't feel bad later. I think there are foundations where we have spoken to where they have been very particular about what are the compliance regulations, finance controls, etc. within your organization. So I think you may want to be audit ready at all times.
Okay, thanks, and absolutely spot on. And Prasad Shetty, if you could highlight that.
So what I can say is that synergy between startup and corporates, you can tap on those kind of corporates where you can build some kind of a synergy with your startups. Then getting a funding will be easy. That is one thing. And second thing, continued relationship building with these corporates. Not only don't look only for money. You also can get mentorship. You can get advisory support from these corporates, and later on it can be converted into a CSR contribution also.
Okay, thanks. And there is one question which I would then I'll go back to Ashish, but before that I want to ask also Dr. Bala, what is it that from your experience that the incubators who are just starting off, what is that one strategy that they should adopt on Monday morning?
Yeah, I think the immediate priority should be on identifying at least top 10 potential CSR donors in the region and find out what value this incubator can provide to them by partnering. I think these two things could be helpful.
Very good. And finally, Dr. Divya, now that you've heard it all, now that you have heard it all, what is it that you feel? And I'm talking about incubators who are still new to this whole CSR partnerships, right?
Just go ahead and do it. Don't worry about it. So yeah, so I was amazed, Prasad. So 2 weeks back, one of the incubators, based in Trichy, reached out to me, and they said, we just did what you told during the ISPA conference in January, and we have response. We are building a proposal for them, and I was like, wow, somebody is listening to me. So, and that's when I reached out to the governing board and said, let's talk to everybody else.
Yes.
And also to add, this is a very good time in case you're, thinking of reaching out to corporate, because this is also the time when, their first board meetings will happen. They'll identify their budgets for the whole year. So maybe if you could, I know we have work and we have little teams, but if you could actually, give it some time and at least just try it out. It will at least start building some momentum for you.
Okay.
So that's something I want to add. Yes.
Very good. That's absolutely right. I think knowing is not enough. Doing with what you know is what is required. Thank you so much, Dr. Divya. And I would, before we conclude, there's one last point that has come up, which is, I think, what I'll just read out. Not many corporates have the clause of funding the incubator as part of their CSR policy. And some of these corporates are also located in their headquarters are in tier 1 state, right? So when it comes to tier 2 or tier 3 states, the CSR decisions are not, it's not supported. So I think, Ashish, we are in tier 1 state, Maharashtra, already Divya mentioned that. So what is it that, how can you see, if you talk about tier 2, tier 3 states and incubators who are located over there, how can they, what is the strategy that they can adopt? Because they feel that they are left out.
My personal experience is, if you reach out to the first person in your city,
yeah,
all corporates take their decisions right from the ground. And if you have reached out to the first person, that proposal, if it has a merit, it definitely reaches out to their headquarters. So irrespective of the location, the proposal needs to have merit.
Yeah.
And irrespective of their headquarter location, the corporate will certainly consider that proposal for CSR partnership.
Thank you. And I can add one thing over here. I recently had approached SAP for one of their CSR based activity, and I did not get the grant because I am in tier 1 state. So it goes against you, because I am in tier 1 city, because they would like to help and promote the girls in tier 2, tier 3 cities. So sometimes you have to also look at those corporates who are looking at going beyond tier 1 state and tier 1 cities. So that could also be an approach. Thank you, all of you. I'll over to you, Dr. Bala. I want to just quickly summarize few points, important points for everyone who is listening in. One is, indeed, building your own brand as an incubator, pitching yourself, putting yourself out there in front of corporates, and that to start locally, like what Dr. Manisha and others, Dr. Bala also mentioned, start in your local circle, in your local region. There are corporates who may have small operations there, but they're still present, like what Mr. Ashish mentioned also, that you establish your rapport with them. Second is build credibility. Be an organization that is compliant, has got all its processes and documents all in place, is somebody who will ensure that the corporates don't fall into any kind of trouble because of non-compliance. Then networking and cooperation. You should not look at corporates only as a funding agency. You should go beyond just grants and CSR funds. Look at collaborations with them for multiple avenues, like what Mr. Ashish has done, and also Prasad Shetty was mentioning. And the other thing is also keep in mind, of course, what is it that the corporates are engaged in? What is it that there is a common ground between what the corporate is doing for their CSR activities and what you are doing. And finally, I think one of the very practical advice, it's a continuous relationship. So keep one person as a point of contact in your incubator responsible for CSR partnerships and relationships. So that's it from me. I will over to you, Dr. Bala, to do the honors and vote of thanks.
Thank you, Prasad. Thank you very much for steering this conversation. Very wonderful conversations, pointed information which would be beneficial for all the participants. And so thank you all the panelists, starting from Dr. Divya, Ashish, Vikraman, Prasad Shetty, and also Dr. Ramji, Dr. Manisha, for sharing your information. So all of you are from the trenches. So day in, day out, you are working on the topic. And so this is very, very authentic and quite useful information. And being the first program after the new GBS taken over, there's an overwhelming response from the participants. I hope their expectations are definitely met, or we have exceeded their expectations, I suppose. And so I would also request all the members to keep writing to the ISPA Secretariat about your expectations on the future topics. This will also help the Secretariat to plan more such events in the future. We have enormous amount of resources, knowledge residing in our own community. Only thing, the proper alignment and the need versus the deliverables, we need to do some matchmaking. So Dr. Suresh also has initiated this clusters concept, and soon there will be meeting with about 25 plus cluster coordinators. So apart from these online webinars, there is also a plan to conduct a lot of events for the local clusters. So the cluster coordinators and the respective regions GB member also will take an active role. So there are more to come in the coming years. So stay tuned. And once again, thank you all for this nice initiative. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.